Bienvenidas, bienvenidos. Today, the video is dedicated to Popa Francisco. Irrespective of your religious affiliation, the beloved first South American Pope headed the church of over 1 billion souls on earth, and so it's worth taking a moment to think about his contributions and some of the books that naturally arise from his work. But first, this is Latina Literati. For over a decade, El Papa Francisco was the Roman pontiff, led the church, the Catholic Church, and spent his time very differently than the popes before him. He refused to live in the Vatican Palace, and in fact his resting place will not be with the other recent popes. It will be in a very humble church, Santa Maria Maggiore, where he liked to pray and as an offering or as a symbol of his dedication to the Virgin Mary. But this Argentinian priest and the first Jesuit, I think that's important to mention as well, there had never been a Jesuit pope and there had never been a pope from this continent, even though he is the son of Italian immigrants. And so he very much identified with the plight of those that had to leave their homeland and those who needed protection. And so that if you wanted to think about what his time as Pope meant for the world, it really was a time to bring attention to those who needed help, the homeless. It is said that he would dress up as a regular priest and go out and help feed the poor in Rome. And he spent a lot of time focusing and trying to get different governments to the peace table. In fact, his last message on Easter Sunday was that he prayed and asked for peace in Gaza. Even more so, there is a church, a Catholic church in Gaza City that he would call every night to see how the community there was doing. And so that in and of itself was very moving. Even when they are being bombarded, he would try and communicate with them to see how the church in Gaza City was doing. This is a man who has a trajectory that we could spend a lot of time on, and there are many books about him. He himself published over 500 books and 4 encyclicals. There are many popes that have published far more encyclicals, but actually the average encyclical is about 30 to 40,000 words, as opposed to Papa Francisco's encyclicals that are approximately 60,000 words. So he didn't publish a lot of encyclicals, but what he had to say was really important, especially in the context of the modern world. When you think of the guiding principles of Papa Francisco's time in office, the concept of unity, of peace, of helping others, truly being your brother and your sister's keeper, that concept of fraternity, and really looking at ways to make a difference in the world. One of the many sayings, because he had many sayings, was there is no greater happiness in life than in the service of others, to be in the service of others. And so that was definitely a guiding principle in his life. So this humble servant to the people, and not just the people of the church, because he was very ecumenical in that he brought all sorts of people together all the time to try and come up with solutions. And some of the funniest videos that you can watch is his discussions with young people and how they bring about the issues that matter to them in the discussions. And you can tell that he's listening and he's trying to understand, and he's getting these perspectives that are completely unheard of within the walls of the Vatican. And so you really have to appreciate the openness with which he took his responsibilities and the ability to listen, because he was a really good listener. He listened to people, understood their problems, and really wanted to help. So really from day one, the moment that he is chosen Pope, he begins his life as Pope in simplicity and in humility and in service. So he refuses all of the red garments that the popes use, all of the trappings of wealth, all of the jewelry, all of that. He says, no, simple white is what he is presented to the world when the proclamation Avere Papa, which means there is a pope, there is now a pope. And so that was really, again, also really guiding values in his time in Vatican City and overseeing all sorts of reform. I mean, there are so many reforms we could talk about, but I'm just going to mention a couple. One, he appointed the highest ranking woman ever in the Vatican to head up an area of administration, acknowledging that, as he liked to say, when women are in charge, things work. So that's an interesting insight into his perspective. He also wanted to try and simplify the bureaucracy. And he made a lot of enemies. And so they said, if you have lived a life worth living, you will have enemies. If you don't, you're not doing something right. If you're trying to make change, you will have enemies. And of course, the most important, there are many, he wrote, as I mentioned, 4 encyclicals, but Laudate Se, basically in praise of Earth, is the most scientific in that he focuses on the climate crises and our responsibility to solve it. Our ability and our responsibility to look at Mother Earth, to look at creation as the stewards that we are, and to find solutions, to find ways of undoing all the damage that has been done over the last few hundred years through mostly capitalism, but all sorts of abusive practices. So really moving. His writings are moving. He very well versed in, obviously, several languages, like any good Jesuit, a very fine mind, very logical and very expansive in his approach at arguments. And so I thought it would be of interest to all of you, to our community, to take a look at some of his favorite books. And so in the description box, I am going to place a link in some of the books that he recommended. And so, for example, Dante and Manzoni were expected. He's of Italian descent. He speaks Italian perfectly, and these are classic Italian books. Obviously, Dante is credited with having established the Italian language, and Manzoni is considered a classical novel in the Italian language. And but I didn't expect authors like Dostoevsky. There were authors on the list that really surprised me, and so I hope that you enjoy that list. I will also include a list of the books that he wrote. So he himself writes over 500 books, and I thought it was just fascinating because the depth and breadth of the themes and topics is truly impressive. I mean, this is a man who spent a lot of time in thought, in prayer, contemplation, and the way that he imparts his ideas and spends time really wanting to teach others and embrace the issues that we have to solve is truly remarkable, truly remarkable. And so Papa Francisco is a man whose imprint will be here for many, many, many years to come. His life continues to be an example to all of us and to show us a path of service to others and an openness and a love for others, irrespective of whether you are of the same or different anything, whether it's religion or culture, or community or language. There is a universal love that is shared in his words and in his actions I guess I should mention that I had the opportunity in the canonization of Monsignor Romero in Rome. I was there as part of a group of immigrant rights attorneys, and there were about 70,000 Salvadorians in St. Peter's Square, and so there were several people being canonized. But the day after, the Latin American bishops had an intimate mass for only about 7,000 people in this very large room. And I swear to you, when Papa Francisco came in, you would have thought a rock star had come in. The nuns went crazy. I mean, people were screaming and out of joy, and it was just truly moving. It was really, really, really amazing to see him so close up and to understand the impact that he has on so many people. This is a video that I dedicate to everyone who lives in service, who works in service, who understands that loving one another and serving one another truly are the best path for happiness in life, irrespective, again, of what your affiliation, your religious affiliations are. Papa Francisco is a man who was a reformer, who was a simple man, a man who chose humility, and truly something remarkable when he was able to be such a superb example of a human being. And may we work towards his last wish, which was peace in Gaza. So thank you so much for joining me on this tribute to a wonderful human being. And I hope you enjoy it. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to know what you'd like us to talk about. And enjoy the books that are listed in the description box. We would love to share with you books that perhaps you're reading and you'd like to recommend to others. Always check your local library, your local bookseller. And as always, con mucho cariño, mucho amor, mucho salud. Gracias.